When the Nintendo Switch came out, it was received very well in comparison to their last console, the Wii U. This time around, it had a much more distinct look and name, so there was no mistaking it for any other system. And as the years went on, it developed an absolutely stacked library. There is no mistaking how great the Switch was. The games were great and the hardware was innovative. But this was the menu.
I don't know.
As we got closer to the Switch 2's launch, there really wasn't much that needed to be fixed. It feels like Nintendo knew what they were doing, so the task at hand was simple. A more powerful system, a bigger screen, longer battery life, more personality in its bland menus, just overall improvements and features that could justify that $700 upgrade. And it does feel like the Switch 2 has delivered on those promises. Nintendo's newest console really does feel like a new and improved version of what we last had, but there is one thing that I think is truly holding this console back from feeling exceptional, and that is the lack of personality. I say that because how is this still our menu? The standard of a system has evolved as years went on. Back then, a console was pretty simple. You bought it because you wanted to play the games on it. But now, consoles are much more than that. They are entire ecosystems. The experience doesn't start when you launch a game. There's something to it before you even start playing. And I think that's something Nintendo used to understand really well. I want to take you back to 2001 because this is where Nintendo had their first genuine console menu, and look at this thing. You can already see Nintendo selling you on the concept of the GameCube. The hub itself shares the same shape as the console, and these spacey sound effects immerse you as you shift in different directions. Down here you can see your save files, to the left are your settings, to the right is the calendar, and up top is whatever disc you have inside the system. And the craziest part is, this menu is basically optional. If you have a game in the system before turning it on, the GameCube just automatically loads it, which means all of this, the detail, sounds, animations, Nintendo didn't even need to put it here, but they did anyway. Of course, it doesn't stop there because the next console is something we can all associate plenty of memories with. The Wii is where we see the system itself start to really become part of the entire experience. Every time you load up the Wii, you have to click A and browse through your channels. It's fully customizable, you have incredible music in the background, each channel has their own preview animations or songs that play before you click on them. The Wii menu just screams identity, it screams iconicism.
And the best part?
These weren't just pointless little additions. Nintendo actually found ways to make the system itself part of the games, which is where the Miis come into play. The Miis are multifaceted in the sense that they aren't only there just for fun. You can create your own Mii, hell, create Miis for anyone you want and use them in games, whether it's to create a save file or literally use them as playable characters. When you see a Mii, you instantly recognize the era in which they come from. The system and the games go hand in hand. This isn't to say we always need new avatars, but the Switch lacks that type of pizzazz. Because how about the eShop? The eShop on the Wii has arguably one of the most iconic songs in gaming history, and it isn't even from an actual game. And here, Nintendo wasn't done with this idea. In fact, with the Wii U, it expanded on it even further. As gaming's digital landscape grew, Nintendo adapted to it. The Wii U menu is honestly probably one of my absolute favorites that I've ever seen. Now, Mii's had become even more integrated with Miiverse. It was basically Nintendo's own little social media platform, and it was implemented directly into the menu that you loaded into every single day. Wara Wara Plaza was where you'd see Mii's running around, conversations popping up, and posts from people around the world appearing right on your home screen. There was even more emphasis on your friends too, who were placed closer to the center of the screen. You could post drawings, participate in communities, interact with other people, and everything just looked so special. It looked so intentional. Even the eShop once again had so much charm to it that Nintendo went as far as updating its theme on a monthly basis. Now go ahead and show me the Switch eShop. Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't even drown out the sound of mom and dad arguing, cause where's that music at? But with the Switch 2, I really thought Nintendo would listen and make those changes. So here's the Switch 2 eShop. Yeah. Do you hear the music? If you couldn't tell, that's because there isn't any. The Switch 2's menu has changed very little. Obviously, the game tiles have rounder edges, we've got some altered sound effects, maybe a little more color, but that's it. I used to be excited just to turn my system on. Now, if there isn't a game I want to play, my console's collecting dust. I don't have any other incentive like I used to. Navigating around the menus when I was a kid was part of the fun of owning the system. But now Nintendo takes this minimalist approach, seemingly believing that the Wii U's failure proved that people didn't want all of this extra stuff. But the Wii U didn't fail because it had too much personality. The Switch had already solved its actual problem. I just find it so weird. For some reason, now that console menus have become more integrated into our gaming experiences more than ever before, they've lost their style. The Switch literally has a section in its settings where you can change your theme, but the only options on this empty screen are light and dark. Now honestly, I think this menu deserves a full rework, but if Nintendo isn't going to do that, I'd at least appreciate some new background themes from their absolutely stacked catalog of games, and maybe that's where we can get some menu music. I like having a base system menu theme because it just feels like the theme is the sound of that system. But imagine having customizable themes where the music changes depending on what theme you have selected. I know it's not a full solution, but it would be a huge step in the right direction. This is something that has affected more than just consoles. Art in general has taken such a bland and almost nonchalant approach nowadays that it's honestly starting to feel depressing. And it's the last thing that I want to see from a company like Nintendo. Nintendo's entire track record supports the fun and soul that they put into so much of what they do. I just hate that after 8 years we got the same bland menu again. It just doesn't coincide with what Nintendo represents. When I turned on my Wii back in the day, it felt like every time I used it, there was something new to see, something new to find, something new to just mess around with. And I understand that Nintendo wants to appeal to a general audience. They want to appeal to all ages, but the chances are those exact same adults you're trying to appease fell in love with a Nintendo that wasn't ashamed to stand out from every other gaming company. The Nintendo Switch 2 isn't a bad console at all. I love the hardware much more, and while I don't love its current catalog, I'll continue to remain optimistic that those heavy hitter games are on the way. But it just needs something of its own. The Switch 2 is missing that cherry on top. When I look back at the Wii, I can think of so many different things tied to the console that aren't even game related. The eShop, the Miis, the channels, the mail, the sounds. When I think of anything from the Switch generation though, I can only think of the games. And that's what's so weird about the Switch 2. The Switch 2 has an aura to it. It feels so cool, but it's dead between turning it on and actually playing a game. There, it's just the same menu I've been seeing since I was 12. The menu of a console shouldn't break the magical immersion you get from playing these great games. Even if the vibe is different, it should always feel like an extension of the same world, if that makes sense. An extension of the console itself. Because the games shouldn't be the only thing that makes owning a Nintendo console feel special. Sometimes, it's everything around them.